Well, that's loud. It's really loud. Wow. Hang on. Yay. Hi, folks. Hi, we're here. That's Beth over there on the right. Deb right in the middle. Can everybody hear us okay? Technology's being weird. Technology's being weird today. So, is it too loud for you now, Deb?
No, I think it'd be okay.
Okay. Don't make it okay. Make it comfortable. So you saw.
It's a little loud.
Okay, turn it down then.
Yeah.
You saw pictures, because the opening panel for some reason didn't work today. So you got pretty pictures, and Debbie enjoyed them at least. So thank you, Debbie. Yeah, those are some old ones. Anne Marie from Arizona. Where are you at, Anne? I'm in Gilbert. Yes. Okay, so we're ready to go. Deb is here as promised. We're going to do lacing, and I'm all behind on the comments here. Here we go. Deb we've been practicing and testing, and we got it all together. Deb, move to your right. Your right, not the other right. There's Deb right there. It's very exciting for all of us, right there. So we did some testing, and thanks to those of you who showed up yesterday or the day before and helped us test live, because that huge help for us to make sure that we got the things so you can see them tonight. So we appreciate those who showed up and gave us feedback, and yeah, it's always a help when you do that. I know it seems trivial from your end, but it's not from our end. It's huge. Okay, so tonight we have lacing. Sunday, Trish and Wynn, Beth and I had a conversation with Trisha, and you're going to want to listen to that. It's really a thought-provoking thing. I'm really proud of that one. We got an excellent discussion. So be sure and catch that one on Sunday, the regular podcast. And then the rundown now for the Stitch Hour. Remember, next Wednesday, no show. No show next Wednesday, because Mark and I will be in the air.
Plane.
Yep. Going to be flapping my wings, going home. So no next Wednesday. The 27th will be Kathy Ray with Thread Talk. Now, there is like a 10% chance that she won't be able to do it. Excuse me. If that's the case, then Beth, me, and Jennifer, and or some combination, we'll just chat. But we will be back on the 27th, but hopefully with Kathy to talk about threads. So that's coming up. Now, the no drawing tonight because I'm not home. We'll get back to that. The big thing is now Sunday. Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern time is when we're going to do shopping at the attic. And it's going to be right here at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And Beth will be here to answer questions and do those kinds of things. And Gene and I will be putting up things, and it's going to be, is it QVC or QVS? I can't, you don't know. You don't watch any more than I do. What am I asking you for?
I don't know any of that.
Anyway, Gene, I asked her if she had enough stuff to sell for 2 hours, and she looked at me like that was the dumbest question on the planet. So she has enough stuff to sell for 2 hours, kits, everything. She's getting it all lined up, discounts on that, so you'll save some money. A couple of people, I'm going to do the dirty work for Gene. A couple of people have asked if this month's sampler of the month is going to be one of the things. No, it's not. It's already being sold at 15% discount, which is Gene's normal sampler of the month thing. So if you think you're going to be able to get the sampler a month for another 10% off or something, it's not going to be on the list at all. But if you want to order the sampler of the month as part of your order, and I think it is 15% off, which is normal, then they'll be happy to take care of you. But it's a QVC. Thanks, Josie. Yeah, I don't pay attention. It's that TV stuff when I'm flipping through channels is that good bad TV where it's so bad that it's actually good, so you watch it for a little while and then your head starts to hurt, and yeah.
Right. No.
Yeah, and I move on. So Gene has a truckload of stuff, and so the format here, and the reason I have the numbers at the bottom of the screen is those are the numbers you're going to call. It's the same number, 888-94-ATTIC or 888-942-8842. That's the same number. That's the number you're going to call to order. Now, as Jennifer pointed out last week, a good idea to call ahead at this number and get your credit card on get them to mark your credit card down. And Gene's set up to do that so that you can call in, place an order, and be out so that someone else can get in. So like the quickest would be call in, phone answers, you give your name, I want to buy this, my credit card's on file, thank you, goodbye, and you're out. And then somebody else that frees it up. So that's the fastest. But if you want to call in with your credit card, just at least have it ready. And Gene has put together forms so that, and there'll be people answering the phones, and she has forms that they'll fill out. And then there's a person who's going to organize all those things. So we'll keep track of it all on that end. But it's you know, there's 3, maybe 4 people involved there at the phones. So there's a limit. So just be patient and don't leave a message. If it flips to a message, don't leave a message because it'll never get heard. Just hang up and call again. And it's 2 hours, and then we're going to be taking orders a half hour after that. So it'll go all the way Eastern time, 2 to 4:30. So the show will go 2 hours, and then you'll still be able to place orders a half hour after that. But understand that if there's 10 kits of something, when they're gone, they're gone. It's not like Gene's going to go get 2 more. It's, you know, they're gone, they're gone. So be ready to call in, leave your credit card, put it on file ahead of time between now and Sunday. People are there. And it really helps if you do it tomorrow because Friday and Saturday is when they have people in the store, so they're pretty busy. So if you could call in tomorrow and not Friday and Saturday when they're servicing customers who are in the store, that would be a huge help. But anyway, that will help you. And then on Sunday, you call in. So we'll have stuff that we'll show on the screen, and we'll say we have 10 kits or 4 charts or 10 charts or whatever, and then you call and order that. And we'll keep rotating them. So like we'll come back and say, all right, there are only 4 of these left. And so call in. So you'll have plenty of time to call in. And like I said, Beth will be here to field questions and help us along from that end because Gene and I will be pretty busy. But it should be a lot of fun. Have had enough feedback to suggest that that there's going to be a lot of people who want to participate. So it'll just be a lot of fun. And just be patient, have your phone number, put it on speed dial, put this number on speed dial so you can hang up and hit it again. That's why I'm putting the number up here tonight. Set yourself up ahead of time, have pen and paper ready so that you can write down what it is you want to order so you don't forget between the time you call or see it and call. So have pen and paper ready and just get yourself set up to do some speed shopping, basically. Yeah.
From your arm, from your chair, it's going to be perfect. You're going to get to go to the attic via fiber talk. That's wonderful. Have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun.
We'll have a great time. Yep. Gene is pumped up. Yeah, we were there for men's night last night, and Gene is pumped up to do this. So, yeah, it's going to be great. So just have fun with it. Call in. Keep hitting the button until you get through, and people will be answering as fast as they can. And we'll keep shoving stuff up on the screen, and we'll have it all in front of us on the table, so that we'll be able to bring it back and show you. But understand, we're experimenting. This is a lot of experiment here. So, but I think we'll have fun, and I think we'll be able to get it. QVC at the attic. Yeah. Be patient, please be patient. But yeah, QVC at the attic. If we could use QVC, that would be the logo. QVC at the attic. Yeah. So join us at 2:00 Sunday. That's what we're going to do for a couple hours. So we'll just be buying and selling. It'll be fun. And yep. All right. So that's the extent of it. Now write this number down if you're interested, or you can go to atticneedlework.com and get the number, but write it down because I'm going to take it off the screen because we can't have it in the way when Deb is doing her thing here. So I got to take it down. So all right. So tonight I'm done yakking. It's going to be all Deb. She's got it all lined up, notes, everything. So she's got it all laid out. We've got pictures to show you, and so we'll bounce back and forth, and I'll watch to make sure I don't mute myself. And Beth will be here to answer your questions. So ask questions, but understand that some of these early things are things that we just can't focus on because we're going to run out of time. We got to get to the actual stitching. So some of these preliminary questions Deb will touch on, but then there's other places where you can find out that stuff. So watch that. Oh, and in defense of Deb, she as the expert in coughing, I am the expert in coughing. Multiple months of experience. Deb has been experiencing some coughing, so if she mutes out or hacks right in your ear, don't be offended.
I'm
She doesn't.
sorry.
She doesn't mean it.
No, she doesn't. No,
Right.
no.
She's fully medicated. Fully medicated.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, you know how that goes. Health is frustrating at times. So all right, write that number down because it's going away right now, and we're going to turn it over to Deb and have at it. So Deb, it's all yours. Do you want me to show your tabletop then, or you want to yak at us?
I can just talk for a minute and I'll have you
Okay.
up a picture.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Just a minute, because you know they don't want to look at us. So here,
No.
no. There we go. All Deb all the time. Go for it.
Okay. I'd made comment at our guild meeting that I had a Japanese embroidery piece that I needed to process to frame, and one of the other gals spoke up and said, "Oh, that'd be good. You know, you ought to tape that for us so we know how to do that." Tonight we're not doing Japanese, but I have a piece of Beth's that we're going to do the lacing. The lacing can be really time intensive and can be costly if I don't know how the framers charge for that, because I have never had anybody else do mine. But depending on your embroidery technique, whether it's, you know, cross stitch, um, needlepoint, canvas, you know, all kinds of things, crewel, um, that's going to depend how you prepare your piece. The first thing you'll want to do, and Gary, we can look at the picture 1.
Okay, there we go.
The first thing we'll do, and this is Beth's piece. This is Marion Lang's sampler.
Oh, and we're going to be able to see the back, and it is beautifully done. Go Beth.
Oh,
Yes. But so first off, we're going to look from the front, and we're going to look for missed stitches. If you maybe did this from in a hoop, you may have hoop marks, or if it's been handled a lot.
okay, wait.
Like,
We can barely hear barely hear Deb.
oh, really?
Can you boost?
Well, I didn't
Yes.
turn it down.
Yeah, I just turned Deb up here.
Did you? Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, let us know.
Is that better? Sorry. I'm not losing my voice yet. I'm still good.
Sandy, we good? Hang on, Deb,
Yeah.
before you
Does
go.
that sound okay?
Wait for the delay to catch up. Just talk to us, Deb.
Okay.
Test.
We're gonna test. Is that better?
Is that better, Sandy? Susan? Somebody help us out.
Is that better?
Hello.
Yeah, because it's
Sandy.
on my end.
Sandy, can you hear Deb? Is it
She
better?
said she can barely hear me.
Yeah, but then we changed it.
Is that better?
It's a little better, is what she said.
Okay.
Is it better?
Okay.
I think it's better.
Gary, do I need to try and turn more up on my end?
Try it, because you're just about all the way up here.
I can try it. Is that better? Am I getting any louder?
No.
Is that louder? It's not. Okay, that's probably my volume, your volume on me then.
Yep. Okay. Elaine says it's better. Okay, I think we're good. All right, have at it.
Okay. So, if you've worked it in a hoop, you know, it may have your hoop marks and such. So you'll want to find out if your fabric is color fast or not, if it's maybe something that's been dyed, or your threads, the threads that you used, you'd want to know, you know, are they color fast or not? If you're thinking that you're going to need to wrench your piece, possibly an Orvis and water. You can really talk to your local needlework shop where you probably purchased the linen or the threads to see for sure. If you need to, if it's real wrinkled, if you have rinsed it and you want to make sure everything gets totally dry, then you can, if it's still wrinkled after it's dry, then you can go and press it from the backside, flip it over and press your piece from the backside a little bit and always use like a pressing cloth. And probably you could start with a dry iron and then maybe do steam depending on the color fastness. And, that's going to be a test. And if you've got a little piece, like in Beth's case on this big piece of linen that you see in the picture, we could do that in a corner. We could press it and see if it's going to leave a mark, or if, anytime you've got, the leftovers that you can test on is great. For the Japanese things that I do, there's actually the steaming is a part of a special process that we do. And so you really do need to do know your threads. We're going to turn our work over face down, and we can look at picture 3, Gary, I think. Or here's.
Oh, well, yeah, we should just ogle Beth's stitching here. Let's just have a moment.
Yes.
Let's just have a moment, okay?
Thanks.
Let's just all pause. Let's kind of a Zen moment here. Let's just yeah. There it is. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's really, and the linen, it was really nice and square, so it wasn't wonky or anything, from being stitched. It was a really decent linen.
As opposed to the cheap crap Beth usually stitches on. This was really decent.
You know what? It was a mystery. It was a mystery linen. So I was really, I just had taken a scrap and started stitching. So I was surprised.
Okay. Now the back. Now the back.
Okay. And looking from the front, and then also looking from the back, we want to look at the stitches. So you're going to have any long tails or threads that need to be trimmed. You'll want to take care of that, because if you've got, a thread that's just laying across open space, it'll show up when you put it against the foam core. And Beth had a moment. She said, "Oh, I didn't check my eyelets. How did they look?" And I said, "They look great." So I checked them before I actually put it on the against the foam core.
Here, let's just have a look. Where are those?
Check the eyelets there.
Let's just do an eylet checkup close up here.
There we go.
Look at that. Look at that.
See, she did. It was great.
Okay.
So, but in all seriousness, you do want to check, because once you've got it laced on your foam core, you can't go back and put in stitches and things like that. So we can, looking from the back then, if we and you can see on this piece, Beth didn't carry threads at all. It's really nicely done. But if you had a motif, or it's just the piece where you have a lot of carried threads, about the only thing you can do on something like that would be to put a dark fabric or a dark layer between the foam core and the back of the sampler, and that would make those threads that have been carried kind of disappear. And that's something that you would be just trial and error. You just have to put fabric, something behind it, and see if it goes away or not. Let's see. Other things to look at as far as whether your piece is clean or not: pet hair, dust, stray fibers. anything like that, you'd want to get off the fabric, even at this stage, because if you're going to frame it and have it under glass, you're going to want to make sure that there aren't anything, little chunks of thread and stuff, fibers stuck to the front of it. And what else? Another consideration is dust. That's a biggie, especially if your pieces, are rolled up in your project bag for a year or so, or get drug all over the country, or sit in your sewing. My Japanese sits face up, for 2 years, and you try to keep it clean and such, but the dust is a big consideration. So one little thing that we've got like a velvet pillow that we kind of tap the piece with the velvet pillow to remove the dust, because that's something that we don't wash. Let's see here. Okay, let's go
Yeah,
to
so basically, this comes down to, just like anything else, all the prep work. The more of it you do, and the better you do it, the better off you'll be in the final product. So keep your thing,
yes,
keep it clean while you stitch. Don't eat Cheetos while you're stitching. Yeah,
exactly.
all those things. Yeah,
Right.
and then you
Yes,
get less hassle at this point and a better product.
Right.
yes, definitely. And because once we get started, the only way you can do anything to it really is to start over. Take it apart and relace it if you find something. Um, our supplies that we use, and I think Gary probably come back to the tabletop.
Okay.
It will be fine.
Well, that would be really nice if that would focus.
Mm-hmm.
It was focused before.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, the data will catch up
And,
here. Bang on.
yeah.
It's not out of focus. It's just data.
Oh, is that it?
Okay. Okay. Well, to start, I'll talk while that comes into focus. Um, the one thing that I use to mount on is the acid-free foam core. And I get this at my local frame shop. I don't know, I haven't looked at the labels at Michael's and Joann's and such to see if theirs is acid-free or not. I don't know. Nowadays, we want to be real careful with, with that factor, with the acid and the off-gassing and stuff of different products. So this is what we use to mount our piece on. And another thing, we use 1/2-inch sequin pins. They're stainless, so they won't rust.
Come on, internet.
And
Come on. Hang on. Just sit still for a second. See if it catches
see if
up.
it catches up.
All the testing.
Yeah.
All the testing. Everything was just beautiful. Come
Yeah.
on.
So where do you get the pins, Deb?
These I found at Joann's, and my framer at the frame shop, she told me that she has them. They order them in for her, so I know they're decent ones. They're 1/2 inch. You just need a small head. In some cases, we'll leave them in, and in other cases, we'll remove them after we're done with the lacing. It just depends on the application and how you're going to use this piece.
So, all right. So these are stainless steel. So they have to be stainless steel. We want to make sure that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you're gonna be taking them out immediately. I suppose you could get by with the other, but this is what what we need.
Not recommended. Not recommended.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you're gonna have a padding, or anything between the foam core and the embroidery, you would need a piece of that. And here again, that's going to be kind of depends on your application and how it's going to be framed, and with or without glass. Lots of considerations for that, but you may need to have a piece of that. We use a good strong thread. I'm using a quilting thread. You could use linen, a tatting thread maybe, any kind of a good strong thread. We don't want to be, we want to match the thread kind of to the fabric. If the thread is too heavy or too rough, it could damage your fabric as we're pulling the thread through for the lacing. So that would be consideration. We might need a ruler to measure things, to center our fabric, find the center of our board. A needle, probably, I'm using a number 8 crewel tonight, a sharp needle. And again, match your thread or your needle to the eye of your, let's see, your needle eye to your thread.
Yeah.
So that you don't,
right.
so you don't wear the thread. Just kind of common sense. And then I use a work surface I can pin into. So I've got like an old ceiling tile with a pillowcase over it that I can pin into if I need to. And
Okay, Deb, this is not straightening out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to disconnect that camera that's on your desk, and then you call back in, and we're
Okay.
going to see if we get a better connection. So I'm killing that right now. But the other one, you'll stay on. We'll still be able to hear you. So
you want the computer? Okay, you want me to
the
my
phone, yeah, I'm killing that one right now.
Okay,
There we go. Oh, geez, now it defaults to me. Super. There we
that's
go.
okay. I'll reconnect.
Yeah, reconnect that because we got to get a better signal. Trust us, folks. We tested and tested to make sure we didn't have this, but
It's the rain. Rain gremlins got in the internet.
yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
There we go. Maybe, I don't know. Hang on.
Looks better.
Is it better? There we go. Looks like we know what we're doing.
Looks better.
All right. Now go. Got it.
Okay.
So now you gotta, we got echoes all over, so you gotta,
I gotta mute it.
yep.
Hang on here.
Technology's fun.
Yeah. Especially when I'm not set up for this professionally. It's just, okay.
Well, if we were, we'd be on TV.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great.
we are on YouTube.
Now we're set up. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, now we can function.
Here.
All right.
Okay. Okay, there's the table.
Yep.
Okay. So, get back in my notes here. Okay. So, depending on how wide your fabric is, you may have a weft edge. That's the finished edge of your fabric. If not, we want to make sure that all edges are finished. You may have already done that when you were stitching the piece. You may have cut it to size and have finished them. And there's different ways of finishing that too. So once you've got everything with
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here, Deb. So by finished, you mean just put an edge on there with your sewing machine, or whip stitch it, or something something so it won't fray.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. You can edge stitch it, hem stitch it. You can. There's one technique where you fold over an edge and then you run a cord down it, and then kind of stitch that cord into the fold. You can whip stitch it down, and that way, as we stitch through it, that's taking the brunt of the thread as you pull it through to lace it.
Yeah.
And I've got a bigger sample here. So so to begin with, you can find the center of your piece. You can fold it in half lengthwise and in half widthwise, and stick a pin in the center to find your piece, the center of your your linen, and the center of the board. You can draw an X through your board, find the center, and you can stick a pin through it and kind of find your center if that's the case. Otherwise, most of the time you'll have a motif that you're trying to center on the board. So you'll just have to pick it up, look at it, and then here's where you can take your ruler, measure on either side to see, okay, I want, like if my motif is in the center area, you can, it's just kind of a put it on there, look at it. And when it's centered, you can go ahead and take just one of these little pins and put in the side just to hold it and make sure. And then you can measure again. These little pins are your friend. So we're just we would just get it centered up.
Okay.
When you're content that you've got it centered, and here again, I'm just using a cutaway piece because of the size of my screen and such. I've got a pin in each side and a pin in the top, and then you can measure and for the motif to see that you're centered.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So we're just roughing it in. We're just getting it centered on the board.
Yes.
There's no fine work, no detail work here. It's just get it centered and get it stabilized with pins one pin on each side, so that you can then begin to work on it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So it would be face, we'll have it face down. And as we're pinning, and I think I've got a picture of that too, we'll show in a minute. But so we'll center it. Once it's centered, we start at the center of a side. And then we're going to move over, like we would go half an inch from center, and we're going to stick that pin next to it. So we're going to have pins going around, and this one is a little exaggerated, but about every half inch. So you'll start in the center of one side, and I would put 2 or 3 pins in. Then we're going to go to the back side of the board, to the opposing side. And we're going to just put some tension on it, a little bit of tension, and stick a pin in across from it.
So here's where we're starting to pull it taut now across the foam core.
Yes, we're doing opposing sides. I'll try and stay on screen here. You're doing opposing sides.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'd work our way, clear up the side, and then we'd go the opposite direction. So we do, and typically you're doing the long side of it first. And this is just to hold it in place, and you keep flipping it over. I don't want to do too much movement here, so it gets jagged.
Okay, so let me make sure I got this in my head right. So I'm working center out in both directions, and I'm doing it on the long side first. That's preferred. So we stabilize it. We work center out with the pins about a half inch apart as we work toward the corners.
Yes.
Okay.
So we end up with a row of pins.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay. And you'll also want to check, like, depending, we're going to, keep going back and forth, front to back, because you're going to want to look for this edge to see, like in Beth's case, I have the stitching, we put the stitching clear up to the edge. So we want this edge to be nice and straight with the pins. because if it's not straight with the pins, when we go to add tension with the lacing, it's just going to get wonkier. So we do want to take time to do that. And maybe there's, let's see, picture 5 and 6 show that
Okay.
lining it up.
All right, well, here I'm going to go to 4 because that shows the pins on the side here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
as we're pulling on each side, this is when we're lining it up with the edge.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And this is what we're doing to like we on Beth's piece, it was easy to keep the straight grain of the fabric. And some fabrics won't be so easy. You'll be more interested in you won't have this hard line to line up, and it maybe wouldn't be so evident. But you do want to try and keep the grain of the fabric even as well. Keep that nice and straight. Then I think the next picture.
Yeah, this
This
shows
is
here.
where, yeah, I thought that showed up real well. You can see where with the taco bar is pointing to where it's not. I've pulled too much in one direction, the opposite direction, so I have to adjust that. So what I do is I take out a pin or two, and tension it the other direction. Pull the fabric the other direction, and this is done like the picture's kind of misleading because the flap is out, but actually the fabric is folded around the board when we're doing the tacking. And then the next picture, you can see where I corrected it.
So this is just a trial and error, pull, push, let loose, back and forth till you get everything squared up and lined up.
Yes. And you don't want to keep pinning in the exact same spot because the foam core will kind of waller out and it won't hold a pin.
Okay.
So you may have to move the pin one way or the other a little bit because the foam core does, deteriorate pretty easily with repeated poking.
So that first time as you're putting in the pins, it's pretty important then that you get it as close as possible so that adjustments after the fact, when you're pulling out pins and putting them back in, are relatively minor.
Right. And you could put in, if it doesn't, you could put in an extra, extra pins or something, but it's just a nice a consideration, you don't. So. Okay. So we can go back to the tabletop.
I'm on it. There.
There. Yay. Okay. So you can see, so as I'm working this, I'm just, like I say, when you put these in, you don't want the pin to pierce the front or the back of the foam core. You want the pins to be straight into the foam core. So you'll want to watch that you don't do that. Then we can come back around. And you want to make sure, that the grain is straight. So we don't, so it's not wavy, because that could cause puckering, depending on how heavy you've embroidered it. If the grain isn't straight, your pattern, your design's not going to be straight, and it may cause puckering in your stitches. So that's why we try to be careful from the start. So we do two sides.
All right, Sandy has a question.
Yes.
Do pins ever slip out of the fabric due to lower thread counts? I'm just wondered because pin heads are small.
I haven't had any problem with this, and typically the silk and stuff I do is real tight. You could, I think you could probably find pins that have a little bit bigger head. Maybe if you, especially if they're going to be ones you're going to take out after the fact, but they stay pretty well. I haven't had any trouble with them coming back through. Is that what you mean with the pin?
Well,
Uh,
well, like going like if you didn't hit the thread right, maybe going into the space between the two threads is what I think Sandy means.
oh, no, I haven't had any problems. No, you should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. So we would do first the opposing sides, the long side. Then we would do the opposite ends, pinning. So here, in this case, I don't have, the whole thing, but I would, again, just like before, we're going to kind of start, put one pin in, and then we would go 1/2 inch on one side of it, and then put another pin, maybe another. This one I didn't do a good job on because I'm not. Here we go. And then I would go to the opposite end, which this case is a cutaway, so I don't have an opposite end. But you would go to the opposite end and do the same thing.
And then just
And
work
again,
your
you
way
wanna-
across.
Right. And then we're going to work our way across, go to the opposite end, do a few, and then you can come back to the other and go back and forth and work your way out to the edges. And you'll want to be sure and flip it over back and forth to make sure it's nice and smooth. You don't have any puckers. You're not maybe skewing in the fabric. And depending on if you have a really soft fabric or a really open weave, you may have to be careful of that. You'll want to make sure that you're not skewing it when you're doing that. And you'll be able to tell right away. You would be able to look. And what you can do is just, flip it over just like I did on yours. I could look at it and I could say, oh, okay, I'm too tight here or too, not enough tension because it didn't stay straight.
Right.
Okay. So that's pinning. And this would be pinned. This, like I say, this is just my sample. I would continue to pin all the way across this edge so that it would, be totally.
Yeah, hold that right there. Let me zoom in so we as much as yeah, so okay, just so people can see what the finished pinned edge looks like. Yeah. So we're not winning any awards for beauty. We're just trying to get it lined up all the way around. No, I didn't mean that as a cheap shot, but we're trying to get it lined up, and all we care about is the stitching on the front lined up and square, top to bottom and left to right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also depending on your fabric and such, the quilter's ruler to square things up too. If you're having issues and such, I've had to do that over the years. But that's, there again, that's fabric. That depends on your backing fabric. It can get kind of fussy. Okay, so we have 2 tight edges. And you can see right here, here's one. I'll just show you my mistake. You can see that little mark there. My pin went through the backing. I mean, it's no great sin, but you could catch your fabric on it or your whatever. There we go. Okay. So we're ready to start lacing once you've had all 4 sides pinned.
But let me back you up on that though. That really is kind of an issue because a pin going through on white is one thing, but if it goes through on the front side and comes up in a stitch, you may not see it. So you really kind of have to pay attention.
You do want to be careful. Yeah. You do want to be careful. So that's a teaching moment, we'll call it.
Okay.
That's what That's what you don't want to do.
Oh, whoopee.
And believe me, there's lots of teaching moments. And I just have to reiterate too that it's a work in progress. It's trial and error. You do what works for you. So I'm gonna start lacing now because we're satisfied, the pins in place, and we're ready to start. When we
Deb,
calculate thread,
Deb, I gotta back you up a little bit now. Tell me about the
sure.
corners. So as you flip those over and get it all pinned, tell me about the corners. How are you squaring those up with the corner of the board? Or is that later?
Okay, that's in lacing.
Okay.
We'll do that. We'll do that when we lace.
Okay, so that's my
So,
signal to shut up
and
then. Okay, got it.
no, 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 no. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Question.
You're keeping me on my toes. Okay. So, let's see, train of thought. Okay. So we're gonna start. I've got we want to try and do it in one continuous thread. There's going to be, if it's a huge piece, you probably won't. You'd probably use a couple of threads. And what's kind of amazing for this piece, no bigger than it is, the fabric or excuse me, the amount of thread I needed to lace this in one piece, and this is, I think, like 10.5 by 6 or 10.5 by 7. I had to use 21 feet of thread if I wanted to
Oh my.
if I wanted to keep it in one continuous thread. So you think, you look at it and think, oh, that's just a couple yards, it wouldn't take much, but it really eats up the thread when we're lacing back and forth. So I do a little math, and what I do is I measure the distance where I'm going to be putting the thread through in the fabric. And then you figure we're going to lace about every half inch going across. So if you've got, say, like an 8 by 10, in the one direction, we would be probably going back and forth approximately 20 times, because if it's 10 inches, every half inch would be 20. And say your thread is, your distance here is 6 inches. You multiply it by that, and then we've got these half-inch stair steps on every stitch. So you do that math, and I always estimate a little high. So for this, like I say, it was going to be about 20 feet, and I know I'll have extra because I did it, further apart, and my stitching won't be quite that far apart. But I just want you to realize how much thread you need, and that's why you want to use a good thread, because on Beth's piece, the one I have here on the table, when I started with the first stitch, my thread was like 7 yards long. So each time I'm pulling that thread through slowly. But if you're trying to use a thread and it's knotting, it keeps twisting up on itself, knotting, don't use it. Find something else that's smoother, or if your thread tends to be fraying or something, that's not going to work. So that's why I say, like, a quilting thread that's smoother and strong, or a linen, or some kind of a stronger thread. And somebody had mentioned using like a tatting thread as well. Some cotton threads will stretch. So, but that's the idea behind the thread.
Basically, there's not an official lacing thread. It's whatever you want to do and whatever works best for you that is strong and will hold up to constant pulling through the linen.
Right, and you will want to match it, kind of to the fabric too, because you won't want it to be real heavy. Like I wouldn't want to use a real heavy thread on like silk fabric that has a much tighter weave. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
So would you use a regular sewing thread then, like a machine sewing thread?
Um, I don't know if it would be um, if it would hold up to it or not. If it's like buttonhole thread or something heavier, polyester thread, it may.
Okay.
But there again, that would be kind of trial and error. Okay, so to start the lacing, we're gonna got my taco bar here. We're gonna come up to one corner here. Now, Beth had zigzagged, and then I did too when I cut the piece smaller. I went ahead and re-zigzagged the edges. So what we're going to do is we're going to catch that reinforcing. So I'm going to go into the fabric a ways with my needle. And what I've done here, I was looking online, and they start with like a slip knot in the end of their thread. And then put their needle through it. I guess so that way it won't come undone or it won't pull through the fabric. And you just have to do it very carefully. Now, when your thread is like, 21 feet long, everything is kind of slow motion when you're lacing. Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to start at one edge, come down a little bit from the top of the board. I'm down I'm probably a little closer than I want to be, but I'm down a little ways from the top. And now I'm going to come straight across. A lot of times you see lacing, they're going like this. When they're lacing on the back, they're coming to a point and coming across. That's not the way I do it, because that puts too much tension in one little, cluster of threads. So what we're going to do, and this is, like I said, this is how I do it. I'm going to go into the thread. Into the fabric. And I'm making like a small kind of a straight stitch. I'm trying to see if this shows up okay. And again, right, like I say, you've got
a question about the threads again. Would you use a fine fire line or a Nemo thread like for beading? Would you use that?
I don't know. I don't do enough beading. What do you think, Beth? You do more beading. I don't do that much beading with that.
I think it's, doesn't that have a little bit of stretch in it? I know all threads have a little give.
Right. And that's one thing that you wouldn't want. I've got to take it.
Right. So I don't know, Dee.
Yeah, because you don't want it to stretch, because I know that's why some cottons you wouldn't want to use, because of the stretch. So anyway, we come straight across, and then I dip behind the fabric, come out, and then my thread is gonna ultimately come back straight across to the other side. So we're not doing the angle at all. It's all back and forth. So here, I'm going to come down about 1/2 inch, go down through my fabric.
So I'm seeing here, just in this little bit you've done, I'm seeing the importance of edging the fabric, doing a zigzag or something, because otherwise those fabric threads would just pull right out.
Right, right. And that is why, and I could actually, um, you can come back deeper into it as well. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you wanted to, you could put another, row of zigzag or something here if you wanted to and go into it. You could double layer it, or some people actually turn it under and do like a hem, and then you're stitching into that, double layer of fabric like the
Oh,
hem.
okay. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think some of it too, Trisha Wynn had some recommendations for doing it on one of her, I don't know, one of her sites. And some of that would be too, we're not always doing this on brand new fabric. We may be reframing or relacing, a piece that your grandmother did or an antique that, you're trying to, you know, reframe or uh, differently, and you would want to, be very careful with it. And you may need to reinforce, you know, like you can use a webbing that you can stitch
Okay.
along all the raw edge, and for really delicate stuff. So
Right, because
again,
I
I'm
mean,
going to
I
go
know
back.
if you put a
Go
lot of
ahead.
tension on that, you're going to make a hole if it doesn't have something reinforced. It's linen. I mean, I
Right,
made holes when I made my eyelet stitch. That's how I did it. I put tension on it. And now you're putting a
right,
lot of tension on the piece.
right. Yep. So you go back and forth, and then what I would be doing, going tipping it over, looking at it, uh, just making sure that it's still nice and smooth. And I would keep going back and forth. Actually, it's probably easier for me to do this way. Still see it that way. Yeah, that works better. And then you keep going back and forth, then until you got to the other end. Then, and I can show this on Beth's piece if it shows up. If it doesn't, I'll try and work with this one some more. But on this piece now, I have got this whole long edge laced, and from just here to here took about 45, 50 minutes to do that.
Okay. Now, Deb, when you're putting tension on this lacing,
Hmm.
we're just pulling the flaps so that they're taut. We're not trying to pull
Yeah,
against the pins on the ends, right?
right. Yeah, at this point, no, we're just trying to get it. Um, we're just trying to get enough tension on it that it lays nice and flat. And then what we're going to do when I get, let's see, I'll do one more stitch on this, on Beth's. Two. Like say here, you've got to be, hopefully haven't messed with my thread too much, because you don't want a knot in your threads in this
Yeah,
day.
you can see quite quickly how careful you have to be with that huge length of thread. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm afraid.
And it happened.
Yeah, I caught it. I caught it on something, and now it's gonna. I don't know if it's my ring or what. But this may do okay. May do okay here. Anyway, so we continue to go back and forth, and what we're going to do is take the takobari and draw tension, kind of even out the tension, and make sure that they're, oh, come on. Well, shoot. Let's see here. What do I want to do? Um, well, I'll show you what I'm going to do, and then I may cut that. And um, we've started here, and we've got, probably, 20 carries on our thread. So you can take like a takabari, I think Jennifer likes her knitting needle, whatever, and you can kind of grab. See if I can see this. I'm kind of pulling the tension. I'm probably doing it too much now. You can use this. You can kind of pull it, hold it, and then you kind of pull up the next. You kind of work your way up the fabric.
Oh, to increase, make sure you've got it nice and tight then on those.
Right,
It's
right, and kind of
kind of
even
like
it up because it. Yeah, I'm just kind of going here and just kind of walking my way up the piece.
So it's really like lacing your shoes. If you're trying to get tension all the way up the laces on the shoe, you
Yes.
start down and just keep pulling. Okay, got it.
Right. Okay. So we're going to just keep going until we get to the opposite end. Okay. Now I'm to the end. I think what I'm going to do is let's see here. Try and wrap that so it would keep my tension for me. And it's not going to. Well, shoot. I'm going to go ahead and cut this thread.
So Deb, have you ever waxed it? Waxed your thread?
Yeah, you could.
Like, okay. And here's the other question people are asking. Do you leave the pins in when you drop it in the frame?
You can if you want to. Some do, some don't. I know one gal that does Japanese, she does because she wants that extra tension. And I have not. I think I've taken my pins out. So it's just personal preference. Now, like Beth, for this piece here, if she's going to be floating this, you're not going to want to leave the pins in it, probably, unless you had them in there just perfect and measured and all that, and they were like a brass tack or something. They were there for effect. But yeah, you'll want to take those out.
Right.
So anyway, okay. So I'm going to anchor my thread here a little bit in this edge. I've got my tension on the side. I'm just going to do 2 or 3 stitches here in place just to see. Okay, we need to make the corner up here. I'll do it so you can see it on the camera. I use a takabari to hold the fabric so I can make kind of a crisp corner. And this is kind of a fussy part of it. And this, again, is kind of a trial by error.
So did you pin that then? No.
No, not yet.
Okay.
This corner, no.
Right.
Okay. Now, I don't like how that's doing that. Okay. Now I'm going to use a straight pin here. I'm going to just use that to tack that corner in place for the moment, because I have to have an opposing corner ready now. And here again, let's see. Okay, maybe this one will show better. You kind of use it to make your corner there, and then you can kind of roll your fabric over it. And it just kind of helps you. And you could use a ruler, a straight edge. Any kind of a straight edge would do that for you, so that you could roll that fabric. Here again, I'm going to the opposing end, and I'm just going through the flap at this point. I'm not, we're not going through anything else.
Okay, and I'm going to answer a question here, because Sandy wants
Sure.
to know what a takabari is, and it is a Japanese laying tool, right?
Yes, it's a steel tool that's used. We use it to stroke threads with. It's no different than, you could use a regular laying tool like that you use to lay your ribbons or whatever your embroidery with. That's all it is. It's just something that I can get a nice, get under there. It's not very thick. Sorry.
Most people,
yeah,
most shops call them the best laying tool, BLT, best laying tool,
yes.
or Takabari. Yeah, it's all the same thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Don't take one on a plane.
No.
No, you will get it taken away from you. So, okay, and then this first one's kind of tricky. Fussy, come up 1/2 inch over. And now I'm ready to go back in this other direction. Did that show up at all, Gary?
Yep.
See,
now.
So I've got my edge, and I'm coming back to the opposite end.
So now we really got some length of thread there. Holy smokes. Yeah.
Right. See, that's what chews up your thread. That's why you need 21 feet of thread, when you're doing this. And then I just continue back and forth. And I can go ahead and do another one, because I don't like how this corner's behaving. So I am gonna, I'll come back and fuss with it. But I go over my 1/2 inch. Come on here. Got it. Here we go. And then I'm gonna leave that pin in there for the moment, but and then you come back, and the whole idea that makes this different than what a lot of people do is we're doing kind of this little box stitch where we're actually relieving the tension, the stress on the fabric.
Are you going through all 3 layers of fabric there when you do the corners?
Yes. Yeah. I went ahead and went through, but I think it's heavy enough. I'm thinking, well, I like it because it's the, gives more to hang on to, but I think on this case it's too heavy. So I'm going to take it out. I would take it out and just go through the top, and what we can actually do. And here again, this is the kind of trial and error, is the fabric here is heavier in the corner because it's not that big of a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do, and this brings up a good point. Some people would be tempted to cut out the bulk in this corner, like take it like that,
right,
to get rid of the bulk.
I'd be very
and tempted. People would be very tempted, and I I mean, that's fine if you're making an ornament or maybe, some more crafty piece, but I wouldn't. I I would be hesitant to do that. So, um, I just try to fuss with it to get it to fold. And then what I'm going to actually do here now is just grab where my needle went to. Better pin this down to hold it in place for a moment. Thread my needle. And try just grabbing the top piece, but I think that's still going to be kind of bulky. Come back up. And then the idea, the 1/2 inch seems to be a pretty good distance to go over. Yeah, I don't know. I would go through both layers because it's not wanting to lay very well.
Yeah.
So there again, like I say, that's trial and error. But you would continue to go back and forth until you've got, so it just looks like a big crisscross on the back.
So the technique both ways is the same. It's just the tediousness of working all that out and getting the tension just right all the way across both ways.
Yes. And it's when that's done, then you've got your you can fuss with the corners some. I would like I say, that's kind of what you can't plan for.
Right, right.
but I want to do a nice job.
Yep.
So, but if that gives you the idea that okay, it's the back and forth.
Yep.
Don't go diagonal. Don't zigzag it. And
So so when you get it all done, then you have a nice tight tension both ways all the way around, and then when you pull the pins out, then nothing should shift.
Right. And in some cases, some people will say, I don't know, for whatever reason, they may maybe something is stretched or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Or may have shifted or they didn't get it right. Well, like take the pins out and then like work it a little bit.
Okay.
Like
okay. Right.
If a pucker would appear or something, you can take the pins out and kind of fuss with it a little bit. In this case, I wouldn't because I worked really hard keeping it straight on the grain.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so the point of that then, even after all of this, there is still some give and adjustment that you can make to get it exactly right.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing that I like about this, back in the 80s when I started doing this, when I would take my own work to the frame shop, you would do this, and when you're putting it over the foam core, because you'd have it like all stretched out and pinned to a mat and fold these edges over, and you would glue, like you'd be gluing these edges down. And it's like now I just cringe at the thought of having done that with some early pieces. But so times change. So like I say, this may become out of favor, in 50 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just something I wanted to share on doing that. And like I say, I would hesitate to cut. I mean, in some cases, like if you're doing a little ornament or if you're and you can do the same technique like with little circular ornaments. You can go back and forth across and then cross the other direction if you're not getting a good result, like bisecting a circle the other way. But I just wouldn't use the glue or the tack board or any of that. On your good pieces.
Yeah. This is clearly archival. There's nothing no acid gonna leach out of anything here.
Right. And it's very, like I say, it's time consuming. And I apologize, my thread knotted. I
That's all right.
couldn't continue a little,
Yeah.
couldn't do more on it, but that will be fine. And what you do, there's a technique with a slip knot where you put a slip knot in one end of a thread and you put your other thread through and then you pull it and it like you hear like a pop and your threads are like won't ever come apart. You know, like to splice one into another if you come up short.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you do definitely want to do the math. You know, if you
Right.
do just break the every half inch both directions and add a little extra and you should be good. But it's just a very slow process to keep your threads smooth and then keep checking the front. Keep checking the front. This is never permanent. You can always take it out or come back to it. If you're frustrated, come back to it. Don't just leave it
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna
Right.
put us back
Okay,
on screen. Go ahead, Beth.
Dee has a question. Why not zigzag the threads? Why not, kind of go,
If you
I'm sure she means.
okay, if you zigzag you're talking when as you're going lacing across. If you're lacing
Mm-hmm.
across and you're zigzagging, you've got just one point of tension. You know, it's like one hole. And then if you go back again, you know, you're going down into one hole. Where if you go side by side, you've got some distance to offset the pull of the thread or, you know, to offset the tension. I know there's physics or something behind it, but but that's why. Because if you go, you know, back and forth, you know, you're pulling on, you know, just
Right.
that one area rather than across a band of
Yeah. Well,
fabric.
you can see the
That
physics at work
makes
right
sense.
there. You're zigzag. Yeah, you're pulling one point, so you're gonna pucker and pull that toward the center where squared off like that. You've also got some tension going side to side, so it evens things out. Yeah,
Yes.
you can see the
Yes.
physics at
And that
work. Yep.
right. And that way you don't get the puckering or like on the front, if you did the zigzag, you would see places where, you know, it would pull. If you
Yeah.
pull it too tight, you know, you'd see it pull across. Just like when you lace up, um, you know, if you lace your fabric into your scroll frame or your slate frame, you know, sometimes, you know, you tend to go zigzag on the edges of that sometimes too.
Yep.
And I know, and Japanese, we don't. We do a kind of a zig and take a stitch and, you know, go back
Yep.
so that it doesn't stress the fabric.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's wow. That was. You can see why it costs so much to have framing done if you got to be laced. Yeah. A lot of time.
If they're going to
A lot
lace
of.
And
it, a lot of time.
it takes,
A lot
yeah,
of time.
it is. It's
Yep.
but there's satisfaction in it too, knowing that you've got it done. I've heard horror stories of people going to a framer and then it doesn't look right and they disassemble it at home and find out the piece has just been kind of pushed in there, you know, stuffed in there with foam core, and it's no wonder it's not right. And you surely, after all the hours and hours you put into your piece, you don't want it to end up like that.
Right.
You know, you want to make sure it's done well. I've never had anybody else do that. Any of mine. I've
Yeah.
always just learned it and did it.
Sandy, that's when she was talking about putting in a slip knot. When you run out of thread or a thread breaks, you use a slip knot and connect a new one and go from there. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, and you can. There's a like Google it. They demo it and the thread pops and all kinds of stuff, but it's really a permanent knot
Yeah.
to put two links of thread
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, from what I've learned, a thread's going to break. So yeah, you're just gonna.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think we'll call it there. Excellent, Deb. Thanks so much for all the prep and all the work and showing us how to do
Yes.
this. I actually feel like I could do it.
Yeah,
I think.
it's not complicated. It's just
Yeah.
patience, lots of patience.
Take a
And
piece of scrap and a piece of cardboard and practice. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
And it's, like I say, and some pieces are easier to work with than others. It just depends.
Yeah.
So try again. Don't give up.
All right. Okay, folks. All right. Thanks so much,
All right.
Deb. Hope folks learned something. Go back and listen to this and watch it again. Hope it was helpful to everyone. Thanks for joining us. And then we'll see you Sunday at 2 o'clock from the attic, 2 o'clock Eastern time from the attic, where we'll spend tons of Beth's money is what we're going to do.
No, because I'm going to be
Oh, don't you
watching
back out now.
chat.
Don't you back out now. No, we're spending your money, Beth.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you Sunday. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.